Political parties would like to know what is the difference between this thing you're bringing and what everybody had said they didn't want, which is the incident report form.
We don't have any incident
now, please,
form.
Can I make my point?
We don't have incident
Can I
forms.
make my point? What is the difference that what you are bringing, the form you are bringing, is going to allow somebody who the VCR hasn't authenticated completely? And what is the completion of that authentication process? That it ties your PVC to your fingerprint. Now, they say you're going to be putting your thumbprint somewhere, and then you're going to be dropping a phone number. I can drop a phone number, 080772222, and I drop a fingerprint, and I go. What equipment do you have to be able to read those fingerprints? What materials are you going to use in collecting them? How are you going to be securing them? You see, so these are the issues, these are the questions. If we're not able to understand these things clearly, then it begins to seem as if, oh, political parties are being done a favor. We are not being done a favor. This is our constitutional right.
Okay, Mr.
We
Okoye.
are the only arm of government or arm of the public sector, if you may, that's allowed to field candidates by the law.
Let's allow him respond to the issues you've raised, Dr. Okegu.
With a civil society organization when you're running a general election.
Okay, let him,
That's
Mr. Okoye.
not proper. That's not right.
Could you respond to... That's okay, good. Let's get him to respond to what you've said now. Mr. Okoye, could you start from the part where he says that they didn't receive any of those documents which you say they received?
Well, with all due respect to him, if he says that his political party did not receive, he can only speak for his own party. All the other political parties received these documents. If we received them, why did you go to court? Excuse me. Received these documents. They came to the stakeholders meeting. They confirmed that they received these documents. Some of them came with their own copies, and we also supplied fresh copies to them. And all of us deliberated on this. I also have with me a document from some of the political parties that filed a suit in court in relation to these regulations and guidelines, saying that, look, we are no longer proceeding with our suit in court because INEC has complied and has done what we wanted to be done in relation to the guidelines. It would be good to make it public. So as of today, the parties that have gone to court have already withdrawn their matter from court. So there are no issues anymore because the political parties have considered that we acceded to some of their requests and also clean up the guidelines, and that the guidelines are good to go and are good for the conduct of the 2019
Yeah, but Mr. Okoye, let me jump in and ask you, because there are two other issues which he raised, but let's so that you don't forget or lose your train of thought. I need you to confirm, did his political party receive the guidelines?
The guidelines was made available to every political party in relation to the telephone numbers we have of each political party in INEC, their email addresses, and their offices. So I think my advice is that he should go back, check the email address that he has in his office, to make sure that it still conforms with what his political party left with the Independent National Electoral Commission. And all the political parties also attended the stakeholders meeting at the Electoral Institute, where these things were deliberated upon. And I'm sure that his party got that particular invitation. All the parties that got invitation were
all right,
there.
Mr. Okoye,
And
we're losing time. So
all Nigerian journalists were
could you go
there.
to the next point? Pardon my apologies. Just jump to the next two issues which he raised about what time the election ends, according to Electoral Act, supposed to be by 2, as he said, and then those fingerprints and phone numbers, what happens to them?
On the issue of when the election will end, the law is that the moment it is 2 o'clock, the police officer or the presiding officer or any of the assistant presiding officers will go to the end of the queue, that every person who is on the queue by 2 p.m. will still be allowed to vote. Even if the last person votes at 6 p.m., the person will be allowed to vote until everybody who is on the queue votes. So nobody will be disenfranchised. On the second issue he raised, what we have said is that the incident form has been abolished. Nobody is talking about any incident form. The only issue now is that somebody has gone to the polling unit. His name is on the voters register. All his details are on the voters register. He has a permanent voters card. The permanent voter's card has been read as a genuine voter's card. All his details in the voter's card conforms to the details that we have in the voter's register. But the smart card reader is unable to authenticate his fingerprints. What we have said is that if we have that scenario, we get the voter to thumbprint beside his name on the voter's register and also supply his phone number for purposes of forensic audit, in case there's a problem relating to whether he was properly, he's a genuine voter or he's not a genuine voter. That's exactly what we have said. And we said when this happens, the political parties will also be consulted in relation to what the presiding officer has done or what the presiding officer will do. I don't think that there's any discrepancy in this. There is no,
what would you call that?
We're winding down now.
What name? What name? How are you going to aggregate that?
Mr. Nene, let's get Dr. Kegu. Pardon me, we need to get Mr. Nene to respond to some of this. Do you have any disagreements with this?
Yes, I think it's important. Please, you let me make my point. You are talking about simultaneous accreditation and voting. Okay? And then you're saying that the person is going to be standing at the end of the last person who's on the queue. So how are you going to do this?
Speak. So just briefly get Mr. Nene's comments. We're losing time now.
My position on this is that INEC should make sure that the accreditation and voting process starts at 8. That is where I have a problem. But I support the fact that there will be a continuous accreditation and voting at the same time.
All right.
Because, like I said earlier, some people will come, do accreditation, and go back, and will not come for the actual voting.
No, but that's not going to happen again.
That is one issue that I want to address.
That's been abolished. Also, that's not happening again. So, Mr. Nene, we need to wrap up now. Quickly, what views do you want to get across?
The view I want to get across is that I am happy with these guidelines. It's only maybe that the INEC did not do enough.
Dr. Kegu, to quickly give us
maybe publicity.
Okay, Dr. Nene, Mr. Nene, we hear you. Dr. Kegu, quickly, what's the disagreement you still have?
Please. Political parties, I do not know. I'd like INEC to make public, the political parties that withdraw the case against the guidelines. We are not against INEC independence. INEC has been fair to political parties. But let us all appreciate that this election is very critical, central to our corporate existence. Any little flaws that we can be able to avoid, it's important to avoid it. The simultaneous voting will not work.
Okay, we need to go. Mr. Festus Okoye, the National Commissioner and Chairman, Voter Education Committee for INEC. Unfortunately, we couldn't talk a lot more about voter education. Yes. And then we had Mr. Johnson Anene, who is the SDP senatorial candidate for the FCT, and Dr. Emeka Okegu, the National Chairman, Alliance for Social Democrats. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on the program today. We're back in a moment to turn our attention to another matter equally interesting. Don't go away.